Hello, welcome back to Pixel Lore. My name is Pixel. This is Landry, the gray bean.
Hello.
Uh, welcome back to the Pixel Book Club as we're going through our fantastic journey through the Hobbit. 3 chapters at a time. You have a tiny wizard's hat. That.
I was ready for it.
I didn't even notice it for half the time that you were doing it. I was like, what's he reaching up? Oh. Anyway, let's get on with this show. Like I said, we've been going 3 chapters at a time. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's time for 7, 8, and 9. Starting with kind of a favorite chapter of mine, which is Queer Lodgings. We go ahead and we get to meet a very intriguing character. Crap.
You forgot.
Oh my god. The name left me. Right as I was about to say.
Bjorn.
Yes.
Bjorn.
Oh, because all I can think about is the name Bjorn, B with a J. And
Bjorn.
Bjorn.
Bjorn. Bjorn.
This chapter, have you ever had a beer called Dragon's Milk, Landry?
No.
Okay. Well, I can recommend it. This one.
Oh, we're getting sponsors now? I love it. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is not an ad. But no, Dragon's Milk Taste of Gold, which is a golden ale with milk sugar.
I want this.
I think about this chapter every time I have one of these beers.
That makes absolute sense, actually.
Yes, because it's very nice and sweet.
You could really do a food tour of this book.
Of the Hobbit, yeah.
You know, and this is definitely, you know, cakes and honey and rich beers with sugar in them. Absolutely. This is that moment. Yeah. There's a lot to really enjoy about this chapter.
It's I said earlier that what was it? A Short Rest. It's a fine chapter. It does feel just a little too short. This is the long version of that, where they go ahead, they've been through some things. Now it's time for them to rest a little bit. You know, they get to breathe.
I agree.
And I think you go ahead and you introduce, which really is what I think about when I think of a druid. You know, like. Someone so in touch with nature that knows how long they've been here. They're so connected. And
he's a different kind of being, definitely, you know.
Yes. Descended, mayhaps descended from the first men.
And we get our mention of Radagast here.
Yes, we do, because Gandalf says, perhaps you know my cousin Radagast. My cousin. Such a fun way to go ahead. Just saying.
Something has always interested me about this chapter is think about the way Gandalf manipulates and engineers the introduction of the dwarves to Bjorn.
I love it.
Love it. Now think about how the dwarves show up at Bilbo's door. And you go, oh, Gandalf did the same thing to Bilbo.
You know what? You were talking about this just a couple weeks ago, weren't you?
Yeah, I was waiting for this to really bring it back up and go, we have every reason to believe that now, having seen Bilbo get to see the other side of it. Like, this is part of Gandalf. Gandalf was manipulating quietly Bilbo that whole time, down to the way he introduced the dwarves to Bilbo. No, it's a bit different because Bilbo's a different person, but the fundamentals are the same. He didn't want to overwhelm him. He wanted to catch him off guard and all that. So it's like, oh, I love that bit about this. It's a subtle thing.
So the only thing that I feel different in that chapter though is that each dwarf, and it doesn't feel like they're lying when they're saying it. Each dwarf has a reason why they're late, why they're last to show up. Their pacing isn't the same as here 5 minutes at a time for this one, because in this one Gandalf is already
He
there.
instructs.
He's telling the
Yeah.
story, and every time he's telling the story, oh well, and he keeps increasing the number of their party.
As opposed to Gandalf
this
shows up at the end in the other and with Bilbo. But I mean, I still think that there's, I mean, we'll never know because it's never said whether that's an intentional, that they just happen to show up one by one or some version of that the same way. Um, and yet it makes complete sense that this is something that, was happening in the background. Um, it seems to me when I look at it, I go, this is the same sort of introduction, but different, tailored for Bilbo, tailored differently for Bilbo because he's not Bjorn and he's going to handle things differently.
maybe.
It makes sense.
I can definitely see that. I really like Bjorn. I like how he has his teddy bear picnic outside, and
Right?
then he goes, "Well, I had to make sure your story was real. Like, forgive me for not trusting you, but when you live this close to Mirkwood, you're not going to trust people." And then because of that, and good stories and good companionship that they have partaken in, he goes ahead and says, "You can go ahead and borrow my ponies up until Mirkwood. That's
Right.
where the danger lies."
And the dwarves are ready to keep going with them, but Gandalf is like, no.
No. Did you forget? And maybe if you had Hobbit eyes, you might have noticed there's a big ass bear following us. That's Bjorn, the shape changer. Oh, I love that part where Bilbo misunderstands. He skins them? He skins animals?
Oh yeah, it's like, don't
What is it,
say
a
that.
Feria? Don't say that within 100, whatever it was, 100 feet
That's
of
great.
Bjorn.
It is a breather moment. It is absolutely we needed it after the two goblin bits, and the Gollum bit. Like it was a lot. Hell, the Storm Giants bit. I mean, everything since they left Elrond was just hardship until this moment, and they're about to go into it again, as we know, though in a different way.
Yes, taking us right into chapter 8, flies and spiders.
For me, like this, I know. Okay, I mean, Riddles in the Dark is always going to be my favorite, but this is one of my favorites. Mirkwood, like it is the claustrophobia of this forest is conveyed so well. The fact that Bilbo notices very early on, he sees the spiders are watching them. He doesn't know they're spiders, but he sees large eyes, insect eyes that are much too large, watching them at night. But the thing is, they're on the magical path. And Gandalf even yells at the end, "Do not go off the path." Bjorn tells him, "Do not go off the path." Everyone says, "Stay on the path." And they're fine until they go off the path, and that's when the spiders strike, right? But then you realize, oh, the spiders were watching them the whole time,
Yep.
and that's kind of terrifying.
But also, like, because you think about Mirkwood, they have these black squirrels, which just sounds cool. If you saw a squirrel, and it was all black, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that's cool."
No, we have them. You can get them. You find them out here.
On your side of the country?
Yeah, oddly enough, not where I live, but across the bay from me. And about 3 years ago, I was driving like black squirrels. And of course, I'm thinking about Mirkwood. And I looked into it. Oh yeah, over in that region across the bay from me. Oh yeah, the squirrels are black there. I'm like, the Bay Area, man.
I'm not. I'm not going to make a joke. I'm not going to make a joke. Anyway, that is cool though.
It was amazing to see. I had no idea. I've lived here my whole life. I had no idea. I only knew of them from this book, and asked somebody. I was like, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, it's the squirrels. There's all kinds of squirrels, man." I'm like,
what one thing that I really like, because when we were talking about our watching adaptations of Lord of the Rings and going ahead and debating that moment, um, you really love the moments that you felt were robbed from Frodo. But
Yeah.
there's something very important in this one, like where Bilbo has to be the action hero.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't take this away from him.
No.
And that's something. It's essential here. He's got to slay the spiders. He's got to go ahead and put up a fight.
Yeah. It is absolutely the biggest. Like, Bilbo stands against Gollum with his wits in a way, but he lucks through that more than anything. He accidents and lucks his way through it. He lucks into getting out of the goblin, from the out of the goblin lair with his buttons. It's all luck, luck, luck. This is the first time Bilbo takes the initiative, and from this point on, it's both the in character universes, the dwarves and the readers start to see the change in Bilbo. He, and he also steps up and figures out a way to get them out. He genuinely gets them out of the Elven Kingdom. But that's in the next chapter. One thing
Yeah,
about this one
I
I
do
still say,
want to talk. I want to before we move on from
yeah, I don't want to move on yet. I got other things to say about
yeah,
Mirkwood.
flies and spiders. One of the most infuriating things is when they go to find, because the torches are lit and they walk in and all once all the lights they all disappear, and it happens 3 times.
Yeah, these elves are dicks.
Yeah, they really suck, don't they?
They do.
They
They do.
really suck, because
Yeah, no, they're terrible. But
what
he
the
makes a
hell is
point.
a hobbit in that second attempt? They push Bilbo out there. What the hell is it's a creature that size going to do to any of you? I don't.
Now, here's the thing that's it's I think kind of lost in a lot of what we get by Lord of the Rings, and I think Tolkien himself kind of lost it. Is these are not the same elves. They're definitively a
Oh
very
yeah.
different type of elf, and because this chapter even highlights that and says these are not at all the same. Of that, these are the elves that rejected. And if you follow Silmarillion at all, you get some of this. These are the elves that rejected the call to return to the West.
Yep.
These are they're the wilder elves, the more distrustful elves, and also they're the only large kingdom of elves at this point that is not ruled by a leader that has a ring. Everything good?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sorry.
They're the only kingdom of elves that is led by a leader that does not have a ring of power. And of note of that, if you think about this, what do we see with and okay, we're going to jump back to that because we're going to talk about the elves in a minute. Going back, I love the river, I love the enchantment, I love Bomber remembers nothing after showing up at Bilbo's house, doesn't believe them when they tell him about all their adventures. He just wakes up in the forest hungry, going, what the what?
Why am
I
I
love that. The whole bit with the boat, and for some reason I always love the bit with the boat.
Oh, it's great.
I think
It's
maybe
absolutely
because we
great.
get
It's more. It gives another little scene for Bilbo to shine, because he's the one who can spot it. Listen,
not just that though. It's our first time we really get to see the dwarves other than Thorin do stuff. Bomber becomes a character in this chapter. I think it's Feely who is the one who works to catch.
he's the
Bilbo sees
youngest
them.
of them, so he's the one who throws the
Yeah,
grappling hook.
exactly. And we get to know them a little more. It's one of the biggest failings for me of this story, and it's not that a badly written moment. It's simply a design of the narrative. But something I would have liked, the dwarves are nobody for the most part in this book. They lack independent personalities mostly. You get a little bit of it with Dory always having to is it Dory or which one having to carry Bilbo repeatedly?
Dory's the
Yeah,
one who failed and then had to go out and make up for it and then put him on.
Balin being the lookout and finding out about the ring and just going, oh, okay, that
He's
explains it.
also the oldest of them, and in
He's
the
the
next
oldest.
chapter he gets a moment to speak up.
Right, but mostly we don't learn much about most of the rest of the dwarves. So a lot of them are just left as ciphers, and so these moments that give us a little bit more. I always liked that. this scene, because it makes the dwarves feel a little more like characters within the story with their own personalities.
Yeah, but then I always go to where Thorin, once Bomber actually wakes up, Thorin going in and saying, "We had half a mind to go ahead and just leave you in the forest," and I couldn't help but think, yeah, you might have, you might have just been cutting your losses there, man.
So, and then Bilbo. Okay, so what do we get? If they light a fire, they get surrounded by giant moths. They go climb the tree. Giant butterflies. I hate moths and butterflies. I'm deeply afraid of them. So this is a horrible, horrifying forest. There's no winning here. I would just run. Just let the spiders take me. That's better than what I'm.
But when he climbs up to the top, and you know what? I'm actually a little disappointed with that scene in the book, because there is, and it's hard for me to say that, but like when we went ahead and did the Rankin Bass Hobbit, when he describes that scene, and I thought at that moment, maybe I don't want to go home. So something along those lines. That is just so beautifully done that I'm going to always think about that now. That
right
ahead, you see this wide span. You don't actually get anything from it because he doesn't actually notice that he's near the end.
Yeah, he has no idea.
But just that moment of reflection. Oh, this is beautiful. It's one of those like sweet little things. Like, but yeah, you don't really get that in here.
So the Kingdom of the Elves.
Yep.
All right. So what's going back to this? For the only king, if we connect this to the Lord of the Rings, now in a standalone sense, just we're getting a real contrast between Elrond's world and the Wood Elves. These are Wood Elves. These are not High Elves. These are Wood Elves, and they're distinctly a more distrustful, tribal, and savage people in comparison to Elrond and his people. But what's interesting when you look at the larger mythology, now admittedly it's a retcon for Tolkien because he did all this later, and you can see the little bits he did when he talks about the different types of elves. I'm pretty sure that's probably a retcon as he was incorporating it into his mythology, right? But Thranduil is the only elf king at this point who does not have a ring of power. Like Galadriel's got one, and look, her realm is one of plenty, one of beauty, one of an art. Rivendell is similar because their rings help perpetuate. They have bounty. Thranduil, and this is important, has to trade with the lake people to survive, and his kingdom, as we know from if you read the expanded lore, is diminished. They are a waning people. The Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are on. That's Sauron has taken over southern Mirkwood. It all used to be the Greenwood. It all used to be the realm of these elves, and they've been pushed into this small corner of it now, and they have to trade to survive. And it makes everything make a lot more sense. The way he's like, "Well, where are you going? What about this? Are you going to go get some of that treasure? Because we could use some of that treasure." They have to buy everything they live off of.
Yeah.
It's a very different economy than we see in Galadriel or Elrond's realms. And so by that nature, Thranduil, I never know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, is a very different kind of elven king, for a very different kind of people. And I always thought it was a misstep to have Legolas be this guy's kid, because he just plays out just like all the other elves then. Like, I like that in this book, these elves feel very different. They get drunk, they party.
I like that too. But I know it's because we just watched it a few weeks ago. It's still in my mind. Turning them into gremlins doesn't make any damn sense. But that's a topic to revisit one day. Because they should still, they are still elves. So like they should still be similar. And maybe go ahead and keep that color that they had, that like soft blue, but make them look like other elves. They're different, but they're still elves.
Yeah, there are still elves, and I don't mind the way that they look in the Rankin Bass if that book was not connected to this larger mythology. If the Hobbit was all that existed, and these were wood elves, a very different species than Rivendell elves, which is implied in this book, then I think you can actually do that. These are more like sprite-like creatures, and they're very different in personality and whatnot. They're not bad.
No,
I
no,
mean,
that's a very important thing. And even Bilbo in this chapter goes ahead and says about the keys that he steals off. The guard isn't a bad guy. I don't want him to really get into trouble. Like
yeah,
that's why he puts the keys back on, because like,
yeah.
well, this will save him some of the fire he's going to feel.
Yeah, it's certainly they're nothing akin to the goblins. The dwarves are taken care of, they're fed. Yes, they're imprisoned, and that's bad. But they're also, trespassing, under questioning, and well cared for in the process. The goblins would have killed them by now, like if it was in a different situation. So, it's
Yeah.
but they are still a thing the dwarves have to navigate their way out of. And I don't know if you noticed, we get it almost feels like a nod to the Silmaril when he starts talking about the ancient enemy between the dwarves and the elves, because the elves commission the dwarves to make a jewel, but the dwarves believe it belonged to them. Well, they're talking about. It seems like what they're talking about is the old the necklace that the dwarves made to house the Silmaril for the elves, and then they said actually that's ours because we made the housing for it. I forget what it's called, the Narglarand or whatever.
You actually reminded me. I forgot to talk about Gandalf's departure, because this is
Oh
very different
yes,
from his other departures. He's saying, "Haha, I'm leaving you. Bye."
yeah.
He's
I'm
done.
not just going to look ahead. I got shit to
I'm
do.
out. I'm out. This adventure is yours. I might see you again,
Yeah.
maybe. But yeah, no, he goes ahead and says goodbye. And I love how Bill was like, "Isn't there another way? Do we have to go through Mirkwood?" Oh, well, there are other paths that you could take if you want to go ahead and go incredibly out of your way, and then have to deal with more orcs and
Or the necromancer.
or the necromancer whose dark shadows around his tower you do not want to find yourselves near. It's great. It's great.
Oh yeah, it's great world building. Just like the comment about Radagast down in southern Mirkwood is great world building. I mean, if you take this as a book written without the Lord of the Rings in mind, Tolkien just with these few bits of text paints this amazing world with necromancers and other wizards and perils and whatnot. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Now it's time to talk about everybody's favorite subject, barrel riding. It's a fine scene.
Yeah, it's clever. It's a clever plan.
It's a great plan. I love it. I really do. I don't love how how Bilbo just kind of leaves them there once they go ahead and land at the end of the night. He's like, "I'm just gonna go steal some things right now." And
Yeah, it's so weird.
it's like, I get it. When you were spending like 2 weeks in a castle and you had to go ahead and sneak food, but now you should focus on getting the dwarves out of their barrels, right?
But isn't this just an interim stop where he recognizes that he can't free them yet? Like there's too many people around or something. Like he know
What's going to be like? The only problem is if there are elves there, if there are wood elves there, right? What are the people
well
going
there
to?
are, aren't they? At the end when he
Because
comes back,
the
the wood elves are
thing,
just pushing them off again. I might have
oh,
missed. I might have missed memory.
yeah, I did read that, and that was something that was, because I thought they had made it down to Lake Town, but
No, I think this is an interim stop, and then they get pushed off, and he barely catches up with them before they get launched again.
okay, that makes more sense.
It
Oh,
makes more sense, but it's a weird delay that honestly I don't feel like we needed. Is like, yeah, and then they're going to be in that barrel overnight. I mean,
how much air
I
is
always
the
found the scene a
barrels?
little like they survived that. Even when I was like 6 years old, I'm like, how did they not die? Like,
Because if they were just in there for maybe an hour and a half downriver, that'd be one thing. But
these
overnight,
barrels are either airtight, in which case they can't breathe, or they're not airtight and they're going to sink.
yeah,
It
right.
makes no sense. This is the
Great
weirdest part.
plan, but makes no sense.
He's going to open up and it's going to be 13 dead dwarves. Like,
No. It's Schrodinger's dwarf. Neither dead or alive. He just has to bring
yeah,
the
but when
barrels
he opens
along.
it, it's dead. They're dead. There's
That,
either they're drowned or they have no air. How do they survive in there? Like, you cannot have a cask that floats unless it's airtight. And if it's airtight, they can't breathe.
so the thing has to be like that.
Well, you end up
That's
doing
why
what
you
they
can't
did in
have
the
an.
movie.
That's why you can't have a stop. You can't have an overnight stop. You
Yeah.
have to go straight to Lake Town, and you
Like,
have to
listen, what it should have been, as soon as they're out of the gate, all Bilbo pops they start popping the lids off, and then they ride the barrels down open, like they're in it like little boats, like they do in the movie, but without all the bullshit from the movie. That's the only thing that makes this scene work, is if they are, they're only in there for a few minutes, even a few
Okay.
minutes.
It's time for everybody's favorite subject. What is the best song in these 3 chapters?
I mean, don't they do the Lonely Mountain song in this one? The winds were roaring. I think they do the winds were roaring one in this.
In Queer Lodgings, I
I think
believe.
it's in Queer Lodgings, yeah.
Yep.
And there's
they
never
do.
going to be a better one for me than
The
that one.
wind was on the withered.
That's my favorite one. It's also the one I remember, so I stopped when I reached that one, and I took more time than I usually do with the song, and kind of played it out in my head and read it a couple times because I really like that one. The others, I'm like, yeah, there's a song, okay, but this one is just a favorite of mine. What about you?
It was actually the second part of the barrel song. I thought about Bilbo's cute little song. I was like, oh, that's fun. That's fun. It's very nice, but you know what? We do have a channel where we review Doctor Who stuff, and they had that one episode. Do you remember?
With songs?
Church of Ruby Road.
Don't remember any songs ever in Doctor Who.
There was a song, and she
Don't
goes
think
ahead and nice to meet you, nice to greet you, how deedly deet you.
Yeah, I like the songs a lot better when they're in The Hobbit.
So that's what that reminded me of a little bit, because he's making it up right then just to go ahead and poke.
Yeah, and you get a little of that with Bilbo in Lord of the Rings too. He does tend to just break into song, make things up, decided to be a little bit of a poet. It's fun stuff. I like it.
But no, I prefer the second part of the barrel song. I really like that one. But overall, these are really good chapters. If I had to pick a favorite, I think it would be Queer Lodgings, though. I out of these 3, if you're going to go ahead and pick one,
it's Mirkwood for me, but I do love Queer Lodging. The elf one is fun, but I never warmed to.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I do love the claustrophobia of Mirkwood and the slow descent. And the spiders. The spiders are amazing.
But what's more claustrophobic than being stuffed in a barrel?
Yeah, that's a little too claustrophobic. But yeah. So those 3 chapters.
Yes. We'll be back next week with the next 3, 10, 11, and 12. And then we're almost done, buddy.
Yeah, how many chapters are there?
I think we had. I actually did count before we started. Forgot. Let me find. Let's see. We've done 9 this far. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters remaining.
That's 3 weeks, but I've got next week, and I think the week after, and then I will be off for a week or so.
I think it's
no. Next week only.
Next week, and then we'll take a break on the 4th.
Yeah.
And then we will return the following week.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's what we'll be doing.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, all 2 people. That's
Oh, do we have viewers now?
We do. My friend Zach, he is a viewer, and then
Hey, Zach.
Yeah, and somebody else too went ahead and was watching.
Hey, other person.
We love this. We love this. We hope you love it too. Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
We have Hobbit opinions.
Yes, and give us your Hobbit opinions down below. Maybe read along. Leave a little review below. Maybe we'll read it next week. You don't know. We can have fun segments, right? Right?
Yeah, we can. We diverge.
We
Discuss.
We can do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, and a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why you do use good morning for very many things.